Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're reading this tweet on my screen, you should be as happy as I am because OpenAI, the OG, has really released their best open source models till date. Now we are going to talk about them and also test them out on how they perform on actual tasks. But very simply, there are two models that they've released. The name of them are GPT-OSS 120B. OSS stands for open source software for people who don't know, and the other one being GPT-OSS 20B, that is of the 20 billion parameter. Now, the idea being that with this cool interaction and the graphic that they are already running, this model technically is more specifically suited for higher load stuff and also can run on high-end laptops. So if you own a MacBook Pro or a high-end Windows laptop, you can easily run this. The other one can technically run on all the laptops and also on a pretty good high-end phone, and that itself is just a crazy idea, right? Like, they have made sure that these models can be used across different tasks, and given that this is open source, they come with amazing licensing. So they come with Apache 2 license, so anyone can use it without worrying about any kind of ideas or someone is going to come and claim it. It's completely free to use for you on however you want. It's designed with keeping agents in mind, right? They are not trying to release an open source model which does not support a lot of things, which is super cool. They're trying to make sure that it works with everything else, and 100% has a lot of reasoning built in that I'll show you in a second. This is called GPT-OSS.com, right? Again, it's a completely new kind of like website that they made for testing these models so that developers can test it. You see, you get two options on the left hand side, and we're going to just start with the small one and do a couple of tasks so that we can see how it actually performs. I'm actually going to give it something a bit complex that I've thought about, right? Again, and I want to see how the reasoning works. So I'm going to say, explain me what is a good UI example for a landing page with great micro interactions, right? Now, the reason I'm asking it to do this is because the next task about this is going to be about creating actually an HTML page. And as you can see, you have an option to choose the level of reasoning that you want here, right? So you can show medium, high, and everything else, and you can also ask it to show reasoning or not. As you can see, it will now go ahead and say the gold standard of landing page and everything else. Give me a couple of examples, describe that landing page, why it is good, why it is not. Stripe and again a couple of other companies have really good one. I think Airbnb is pretty cool, and then it adds a lot of other things how you should utilize this. Now what I'm going to do is, based on this, write a single page HTML and CSS file for an AI business and give me the code. So the point is, now I wanted to go ahead and actually write it. But the one thing that I can really say, again, with all the inferences improvement that they've done, this is the fastest model interaction I've had even with a mini model, right? Again, I know it's very small and it's super cool, but it's super fast. I think they've really made sure that yes, it's going to hit a lot of things, and given that it's just 2 hours after launch and it's still able to perform super fast, again, I'm just going to wait to see on what we end up with this here, and let me show you the output. But I already have tested the same prompt in the higher level model, which is 120B, and I'll show you how does the output look there, and let's see what do you think about it. And then again, this is the best way to test it on comparative tasks. Again, it's not supposed to be a head-to-head comparison with the closed source models. That's why I'm comparing them both on how they perform, and you can also judge on the kind of quality of responses that we get. I'm expecting that the 20B model will obviously not give as good as a response as the 120B one, but let's see, who knows. The world can always go crazy. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this code, run it in a second. Okay, so the results are pretty obvious, right? Again, this is the model that this is the 120B model, what the output looks like. Again, I just asked you to create a AI based landing page for an AI business, and as you can see, it has added a good micro interactions. Obviously, it tried to use Unsplash for images, which I don't think was a great idea, and given that it was one shot, I can't complain. You have a couple of good micro interactions done. It tried to create a map here, but I think the image is not they not forgot to add the image, but try to add these simple micro interactions, which will look really cool if you actually had a map behind it. But again, not bad, obviously comparing to this, because this is the model response that came from the 20B, the small mini model that I would love to call it. I wish they would have named it like a mini model and large model, something like that. But okay, but this is the response that we get from that. Again, it's one shot, nothing crazy, same prompts, but again, it's fine. Like, again, the quality, like, you are not expecting something much crazier than this on such a small model, and also the way it fast responses. It's not supposed to be meant for super high-end programming tasks, but you can surely use it for auto completion and everything else. With that, let's try to figure out one more output here, right? Again, so you can see, like, there is multiple options that it gives. So one of the cool things that they've added now is suggest a random prompt. I would actually like to, like, use it on an alternative tangent, because and I'll talk to you that in a single second, right? Okay, tell me a story about the world history that most don't know about in an interactive manner. Okay, so we're going to take this in an interactive manner, less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to take the same prompt, run it across on both of these functions. So because one on the higher end and everything else, because why am I testing it specifically on this prompt is because of the reason that they have trained it. They have really trained it specifically, as you can see, mostly English text only data set with a focus on STEM, right? Again, they've really focused a lot on STEM, and the reason behind that is because open source models are mostly going to be used, at least in the current scenario, a lot for programming, a lot for use cases which are like, basic simple stuff, and technically, like, just being used for a lot of internal application development and everything else, right? Again, because still the best models that they have are going to be that small incrementally better, but also quite stand out when you are using it for content creation and everything else. So this will be able to, like, add to that. Again, they have given a simple model card, so you have the total parameters, you have the total parameters here, and again, you can read out this whole blog also if you want, and I will link that down in the description. So let's see what the response looks like. It has thought for 13 seconds. This is the 120B model. Okay, a forgotten kingdom, the Himalayite kingdom, modern day Yemen. Okay, 525C. Okay, like, pretty interesting story. I don't want to read through it, but like, I've never actually ever heard of this story. Choose your path. Reply 1 for the priest, 2 for the monk, and 3 for the trader. And I'll do the tail from that. Okay, so this is a very pretty interesting. It created a simple game. Like, I can choose, like, what my path looks like. So if I say, okay, number 1, and I go into the royal priest tribe, it's pretty interesting way to tell a story, and I would not have expected that in the first shot, right? I would have expected something different. This apparently has thought for 26 seconds, right, and has not come up with an answer and still going on and thinking, right? So I don't know what has happened here to be like, for 20B parameter. So again, you can see, like, you can see the clear difference if I just move this on to the left hand side and I put this here, right? So you have the 20B response here. I think it got stuck for some reason. Let me just, like, recreate a chart on that, the 20B parameter. But this is pretty interesting. Like, it was able to create on the left hand side like a simple game pretty quickly, and I think this is also going to choose something similar based on the content and everything else. Now, because I don't know any of those stories, I can pretty much say, like, the idea is pretty interesting that they both, like, chose a different option. But here, obviously, the response speed is much faster, like just for a couple of seconds, or high reasoning also. If I choose this to low reasoning and then try this again, that would be pretty interesting. I want to just see how quickly does the response come in, right? Okay, and that's instant. That's quite literally instant, and that's the whole idea, right? Like, I'm just like, again, you can see it on my face. I'm blown away by the speed of it, because if you just select low reasoning model, you get this quick thing again. So feels pretty interesting. I'm going to test it out more. But I think OpenAI has very clearly proven 3 things there, right? Again, so one is that, they are going to release more and more better open source models, which are going to be much useful for everyone else. The benchmarks are so close to their own models that, like, it does not make sense for any company to release this, but they did. So kudos to them on that. You can read about them on GitHub also. Like, I will link this below in the description. So you have everything else. They have created a lot of cookbook examples on how you can actually train this, how you can do all of these things. So everything is available, and I just, like, I'm just super happy that finally the wait is over and we have our open source models from the best out there. With that, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. It's literally 1:30 a.m. in India. Because everything gets released on US time, I still love to make these videos. Please hit that subscribe button, helps me out a lot, and I would love to see you in the next one.